Hey, it's Tim Miller from the Bulwark, and Fox News is at it again with the election fraud, lies, conspiracies, hysteria. You would think they would have learned a lesson from the $787 million settlement they had to pay to Dominion. But I guess not. I guess the sweet siren song of comforting lies about the 2020 election is just too much for these guys to resist. Let's watch Fox's resident funny man. It's important to understand Greg Gutfeld, this little shrimpy funny man they've got, does their late night comedy show.
Personally, I have no problem with a store that wants to fly rainbow flags. You can fly a flag for the Bolivian national pickleball team for all I care. That sport combines two of my favorite things, pickles and balls.
He also does the news show at 5 o'clock, The Five. So it's kind of hard to tell where the comedy stops and where the news begins. If you want to call it comedy, it's not the funniest show that I've ever seen, Gutfeld. But let's take a listen to him on Monday's edition of The Five.
When you see these Trump polls and you see these rallies, I'm worried about what we don't see. What are the Democrats cooking up with the votes? Legal or illegal? Judging by your ears or your eyes, this election should not even be close. So the Dems have two options. One, accept the outcome, be comforted by the fact that you got one Biden term, a deal with a dementia-ridden devil, or resort to electoral dirty tricks. And that's why we need the utmost transparency, because I fear the Dems will go the second route. Although I have very little evidence on that, but that hasn't stopped me before.
They haven't done any of that.
No, never. Not at all.
Never.
We won the last election.
One.
All right. He's wondering what they're cooking up. He's wondering what they're cooking up, guys. Who knows what it could be? You know, maybe it's a meth cook down in the basement. Maybe they got that big blue meth going. We don't know what the Democrats are doing. Maybe it's the bamboo ballots again. Maybe they're getting into the Dominion machines. Maybe it's the illegals voting. They don't have any evidence. They've been looking for evidence for 5 years. They've lost every court challenge they've had trying to demonstrate that there was fraud in 2020. Like the only recent stories about people committing fraud and being convicted and there being proof tend to be Republicans in like random local races that not at any big scale. Like this is all just a hallucination. Like this is all just like a mushroom comfort food for these guys, because they can't accept that a majority of the American people, an overwhelming majority of the American people really in every presidential election since 2004 have rejected them. And so now it's like, oh, well, instead of judging based on votes, we're going to judge based on how many people showed up to the Jersey Shore for Trump. Well, that's not how elections work. The people who don't go to rallies, who just kind of sit at home, watch the NBA playoffs and parent their children, their votes count the same. All right, as somebody that puts on a red hat and shows up and starts, screaming at the, random minor MAGA celebrities that open up for Donald Trump at his rallies. All right, those votes count equal. So you can't really judge votes based on who shows up to events. Here's an example I'll give you. Before the 2022 election, I was covering the Arizona race, and I was in Tucson, and I went to see a Katie Hobbs event. Katie Hobbs is now the governor of Arizona. She's a Democrat. Literally 5 people showed up. It was the saddest political event I've ever seen. It was like 2 days before the election. Then later that day, I went to a Carrie Lake rally, and it was like a monster truck event. Huge lines, people shouting at me, fake news media, you suck. Lots of energy. Guess who won that election? Katie Hobbs. Do you know why? Because the people that aren't political obsessives, they didn't want that freak Carrie Lake to be their governor. And so they just showed up, voted for Katie Hobbs. They didn't knock on doors for her. They didn't go to Katie Hobbs rallies. They didn't wear Katie Hobbs shirts. They just voted for her. Those votes count the same. So I'm sorry, Greg Gutfeld, but you can't judge who's going to win in November based on who shows up to Trump's Jersey Shore rally in May. All right, it's a different deal. Can't judge based on the polls in May. I was working on the Mitt Romney campaign in 2012. I remember somebody sent this to me just yesterday. New York Times poll in May of 2012 had Romney up 3. We know how that turned out. All right. You don't remember Mitt Romney didn't go out there after that election and say, oh, fraud. It was the ballot fraud. Obama didn't really win. I got cheated. No, Mitt Romney just conceded like a responsible individual. So, here's the thing, polls and rallies, like they're data points. They're stuff that we're going to analyze. We've been talking about them here at the Bulwark, but they're not dispositive. Right? You aren't certain that somebody wins based on them. So the Fox folks apparently, they need this. They need this conspiratorial comfort food to make themselves feel better about all their L's. But that's kind of the sad point and laugh part of this. There's also a serious part of this. Just casually, wildly speculating about election fraud in May after what we saw in January 6th. Like, we've already seen what the consequences of these lies are. All right. Some people are going to believe them. We know Greg Gutfeld doesn't really believe them. Maybe, who the hell knows? Maybe he's been red pilled and is off the deep end. But we know a lot of people at Fox don't believe them because we've seen the emails, right? Like, we've seen now the private emails between Tucker and Laura and Sean Hannity and the Fox executives. Like, we know what they really think. And they're not stupid. Okay. They don't believe these fantastical lies about mass election fraud. But some of the viewers do. And for good reason, right? I'm not calling the viewers dumb. It's like, if people that you respect, people that present themselves as newsmen, are coming on TV and saying Democrats are cooking up fraud, it's logical that some percentage of people will say, okay, I'm not a political expert. I have a regular job. I have a regular family. I'm being told by people that I trust on TV that there's fraud. And so I assume that there's fraud. And then I'm going to act on that knowledge. And if you really believe that the country is being stolen from you, that you have this huge majority and it's being robbed from you by these shadowy forces, then it's logical to want to act on that, to try to take the country back with strength, as Trump said on January 6th. So it is mockable, it's absurd, but it's also serious and dangerous. And Greg Gutfeld should be ashamed of himself. We're going to keep monitoring what's happening on the fake news, right-wing media, so you don't have to. And make sure to subscribe to this feed. Come back. We'll see you all here soon. Hey, if you like this video and our content, I'd love for you to become a Bulwark Plus member. You get bonus podcasts, you get bonus newsletters, you get bonus takes from me that maybe don't come up on the YouTube feed. You can try it out for free at thebulwark.com/free trial. The link is below in the description. We'd love to have you as a member of our community. We have great commenters and great opportunities for people who want to protect democracy.